Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I reviewed the video that I did last time and I just thought it was way too formal and felt a little bit scripted. So today I'm on the sofa. Excuse the granny wallpaper behind me. We've just moved into a new house and it needs full renovation, but I've got a cup of tea and I just wanted to talk to you today about how I discovered lipedema was a condition and how I got my diagnosis. Getting a diagnosis is a bit of a minefield for lots of women, so hopefully the info that I'm going to share will really help. But I first heard about lipedema in 2014 when a lady called Claire Tickle was on This Morning and she was talking about her 10 stone legs. And I mean, her legs were significantly bigger than mine, but she had all the same symptoms. So they were very cold to touch, lots of bruising. They were column shaped, out of proportion with the rest of her body. And she had lots of dimpled fat all over them. I had always known that I had bigger legs than everybody else, even in primary school, and I've talked about this on my Instagram page. But when I turned sort of 14, 15, they really started to change shape and get much bigger quite quickly. I think it coincided with me going on the contraceptive pill, but I don't know that for sure. But some women have reported that they think that's the case. But anyway, so I saw Claire Tickle on This Morning. She had all of my symptoms and she talked about this condition called lipedema and how she was going to have surgery to treat it. And at that point, I immediately switched off. I mean, I was at university. She specifically mentioned that the treatment wasn't available on the NHS. There was no way that I was going to be paying for operations at that point. I did not hear that the condition was progressive and that early diagnosis was really key. Had I heard that or had I listened properly, I probably would have acted differently in the following years. But I brushed it under the carpet for several years, and then in 2018 I lost quite a lot of weight. So I went to a gym for the first time in a long time. I was going 5 or 6 times a week. I really fell in love with exercise. It's obviously great for your lymphatic system, but also it made me drop the excess pounds. So I ended up losing about 2 stone, and my body was quite toned, like my shoulders and my tummy were toned, but my legs weren't changing. And I remembered this buzzword, lipedema, and started Googling it and realised that no matter how hard I exercised, my legs weren't going to change. And actually, this is when this word progressive first appeared. And I started to worry that my legs were going to keep getting worse. And there were some reports that women ended up in wheelchairs because their legs were so big. So at that point, I started to think about doing something about it, although I didn't act straight away because I read on the internet that GPs weren't taught about lipedema and many didn't know about it and were quite dismissive of women who had it. And additionally, that the surgical option in terms of treating it was viewed as cosmetic, so it wasn't very highly regarded by doctors. So I left it for another year, and then we went to Italy for my birthday the following year. And you might have seen this photo on my Instagram, but James took a photo of me and my legs were in the sunlight and you could see how much dimpled fat had appeared. And it was the first time I really recognised that my legs had started to change dramatically, and the first time I really thought about doing something about it. So this was the summer of 2019. I was still very nervous about getting a diagnosis because once you have that diagnosis, once you're diagnosed with a chronic disease, what next? Like, it's not curable. It's treatable, but reversing it was really difficult. So I did get quite nervous. And I sat on it again for another year, and then my legs started to hurt. So not just the heaviness I felt when I was exercising, but as in real burning pain around my ankles at the end of the day. Bruising was worse than ever. I honestly couldn't you couldn't touch my legs without bruising them. So I started looking into treatment options rather than go and get a diagnosis like a normal person. And I found on Instagram a surgeon called Dr. Burgos de la Obra, and he is based in Madrid, and he treats lipedema using liposuction. And I went on his website, and it said that they could diagnose me virtually. So by this point, we're talking sort of summer of 2020. And so I sent my photos and completed a diagnosis form for them, and they diagnosed me with stage 1 lipedema, very late stage 1, verging on stage 2, in my legs. They didn't believe I had it in my arms, but it is quite difficult to see from the photos that I do have it in my arms. And they also recommended that I visit a UK doctor to get a diagnosis also, because they could see me in person. I don't know why I had this innate fear of going to my GP, but yeah, I just couldn't do it. So I was looking for other options, and I found a hospital in London called the Parkside Hospital, and there's like one of the best specialists in the world there, Dr. Mortimer, or Professor Mortimer, and there's a doctor there called Dr. Gordon who was trained by him, and she is superb. So I paid £350 to go and see her and get a diagnosis for my lipedema. She had none of my medical history or any of my notes, and I've talked about this on my Instagram as well, but she was still happy to diagnose me. So I essentially referred myself there and paid for the appointment. She did a full examination of my legs and arms, and she diagnosed me with stage 1 lipedema in my legs and arms. And she talked me through some of the options that I had in terms of treatment. And then she wrote a really thorough diagnosis letter and sent it to my GP. She recommended to my GP that I was a suitable candidate for surgery, but also that I should be wearing made-to-measure flat neck compression. And to be honest with you, since she wrote that letter, my GP has been absolutely brilliant. And actually, I wish I had gone to them in the first place. I felt a bit sheepish, I think, when they rang me and said that they'd had the letter through, and they just wanted to help. So they have been very helpful. So although I have gone kind of the backwards way round in getting a diagnosis, actually my recommendation to women who think they may have lipedema would be to start with your GP. If you don't get the response you need from your GP, or if your GP is dismissive, you can actually ask to see a different doctor as a starting point. And you can take with you, as I said on my last video, all of the information on the Lipoedema UK website, and explain that your symptoms tally with the symptoms listed on the website, and they should refer you to a lymphedema or lipedema clinic. And actually, they might refer you to Dr. Gordon, because she also operates out of St George's on the NHS. So yeah, my advice would be to go to a GP and ask them to refer you to a specialist. If they refuse, you can pay to go and have an appointment. And I would recommend Dr. Gordon any day. She was brilliant. And once you have a diagnosis, they will explain all of the treatment options available, and then you can make some informed decisions about what you want to do next. Thank you for watching. As always, I'll put my Instagram page in the description. You can pop on there and send me a message anytime.